Well, let's get the opinions now of the Conservative MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, Stewart Hosie of the SNP, and also the co-leader of the Green Party, Caroline Lucas. Welcome to you all. It must be a disappointing Queen's speech for you. All those good ideas in the manifesto in the bin.
Not necessarily. Some of the ideas in the manifesto were rotten, so I'm quite pleased they've gone in the bin. I think it's an excellent Queen's speech. It was a clear Queen's speech, and it sets out a programme for the next 2 years that sorts out Brexit, but also is talking about housing and education and about transport, things that really matter to people beyond the Brexit debate.
So is it a vision for the nation over the next 2 years?
I mean, Jacob's putting a brave face on it, as he has to do, but the truth is this is a hollowed-out programme for a hollowed-out government. There is no substance here. This is thin gruel. All of those big things that Theresa May wanted, like her grammar school programme, her fast-track fracking on steroids, all of that has gone, and I'm very glad about that. But in its place, what we don't have is anything that really matches up to the public service crisis that we have, nothing really on the environment either.
So on environmental questions, you feel that it has moved in your direction?
There's a small step on electric cars, for example, but for example on Brexit, 8 bills on Brexit, nothing on the impact of Brexit on the environment. That's massive, and the government's not even noticed it.
Stewart Hosie, it does seem that as far as things going in the bin, second Scottish independence referendum's in the bin.
Well, that's got nothing to do with Theresa May or this government.
It actually has to get permission for it.
No, it doesn't have to get permission for it. And we've just had a Queen's speech laying out the legislative programme, and I think we should talk about that rather than the mandate the Scottish government have to run a second independence referendum. But in terms of what we heard today, it's been said already, a very thin gruel indeed. And all of these bills, the fisheries bill, agriculture bill, customs, trade, immigration, all of which will be required to deal with the consequences of Brexit. Wouldn't it have been better in the election or today if the UK government had told us what Brexit might look like instead of some nebulous bill titles that may end up being nothing more than a power grab?
There is quite a lot of reinventing of the wheel. One is, if you're going to import all this European legislation, why get out in the first place?
Well, no, because then we're in charge of it. So the Great Repeal Bill ensures that the status quo maintains...
Isn't that a bit theological?
No, it's not theological. Who governs you, whether you're governed by your votes or whether you're governed by a remote bureaucracy, is fundamental to the state of the nation, the government of the nation. If we repatriate, which we will, all our domestic environmental regulations, then the Green Party will be able to argue and implement different regulations if it were to win an election, and it comes back down to our domestic determination. Scotland will get its fishing waters back. This is really important. This is going to be important for the Scottish economy, important for the UK economy. Brexit is a great opportunity, and the best thing is that politicians won't be able to use those weasel words, we can't do anything about it, it was all decided in Brussels. From March 2019, when you're interviewing us, we won't be able to use that escape clause. You'll say, look, you're in charge, Parliament can change this, our democracy can function.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that of course Jacob's friends in the city are not at all happy about this. Business isn't happy about this because we've still got no real clarity about what this Brexit is going to look like. Theresa May went to the country wanting that mandate for a very hard Brexit. She didn't get it, but she hasn't seemed to wake up to the fact that we need to have something in its place. Not just a series of headlines of names of bills, but clarity. And what we would like to see is membership of the single market and to keep freedom of movement.
Do you think, given the minority government, that there is a chance now of Parliament collectively really shaping Brexit perhaps in a different direction from what the Conservatives on their own would like?
Possibly. I think because we're all minorities now. Theresa May failed, she doesn't have a clear majority. The arrangement with the DUP seems to be unravelling before it's even completed, and that should be troubling for all of us. But given those circumstances, there is an opportunity for the softest possible Brexit, something akin to free movement, something akin to staying in the single market, making sure we have maximum transitional arrangements in terms of a custom union type arrangement. But only time will tell whether our friends in Europe will tolerate that, given the decision by the UK government to leave.
Any chance of that?
The general election showed people voting for Brexit, for leaving the European Union. The Labour Party manifesto is almost identical to the Tory Party manifesto on Brexit. The Greens, the Lib Dems and the SNP, who wanted to reverse Brexit, for which soft Brexit is code, all lost votes. The country voted to implement what it decided a year ago. That's what this Parliament was doing.
Some in Labour would say they wanted soft Brexit.
Well, they may not have read
first Brexit.
They may not have read their own manifesto.
Well, I read their manifesto, and it's not a pledge to leave the European Union, it's a statement of fact.
It accepts that we voted to leave and that we would leave the single market. And what's interesting is why didn't the Labour Party campaign on reversing that vote? They didn't campaign on it because they knew it would lose them votes and seats. The Labour Party therefore has accepted Brexit in the general election.
So if that's the case, how can you soften up Brexit through Parliament?
Well, I completely disagree with Jacob's analysis. Although it's very clear that people voted in the referendum to leave the EU, it's not clear whether or not they wanted membership of the single market. It's not clear whether or not they still
But
wanted
if you put the
some
two
aspect of
manifestos together, that's what the two
Well, the Labour
manifestos...
manifesto, as we've already indicated, was masterful in its fudgery. I mean, it was deliberately keeping options open. But I think now, if you actually look at some of the polls, people are deeply worried about the economic impacts of rushing towards potentially no deal at all, and the kind of arrogant position of Theresa May in these negotiations.
That's pretty
getting
clear.
in a hole.
I think the Liberal Democrats are planning on putting down an amendment. Don't know about Labour, but I mean, if an amendment goes down saying that Britain should become Norway, for example, in terms of its relationship with the European Union, do you think there's a chance that Parliament could actually vote for that?
I think absolutely there's a chance that Parliament could vote for it, because I think people around the country are waking up to the fact that a very hard Brexit is going to be bad for them, bad for their communities, bad for business.
That is a real chance, isn't it?
I think it's highly unlikely because it would be rejecting what the voters said both in 2016 and in 2017. The parties that campaigned to overturn the referendum lost votes in the general election. The Labour Party kept quiet on it because it was worried it would alienate its own...
Nobody campaigned to overturn the referendum.
Well, the Lib Dems did.
I think we need to be really careful here. We can't really have a high Tory like Jacob pretending Labour votes are votes for a hard Tory Brexit. Many people who voted that way did not want this.
So do you think there's any chance of this coalition?
I think when Theresa May's soundbite that a bad deal is worse than no deal is scrutinised, it makes no sense. A no deal is the worst deal because it's an immediate reversion to WTO rules and all of the negative consequences that entails. Caroline's right. People may have voted to leave the EU, but many were told you can stay in the single market, you can stay in the customs union, there'll still be a right to free movement. Some people argue differently, but all of those arguments were made. Perhaps this is the opportunity for us to craft what Brexit might mean.
This completely denies the referendum. The referendum was quite clearly about leaving the single market and quite clearly about stopping free movement, and it was quite clearly about having control of our own
that
laws.
was on the referendum ballot paper.
The ballot paper said leave the European Union,
exactly.
staying in the single market.
It didn't say where you're going to. There was no clarity about destination, Jacob.
Staying in the single market, staying in the customs union, abiding by EU law means you're still in the European Union.
But on that basis, there's also 350 million a week coming to the NHS.
Well, there's going to be 200 million a week that we won't have to pay in to start with, and the government's going to give 10 billion a year extra by the end of this parliament to the NHS anyway. So the 350 million...
No money for farmers, no money for fisheries industry.
No, the money for farmers... The money for farmers is going to be there. But if you actually look at what...
Then it's not going to be there for the NHS.
It's been, in our manifesto, we're planning to guarantee it for the whole parliament.
Your manifesto's not going to go through. You're going to cut a deal with the DUP.
All right.
We've promised to guarantee farmers to 2025.
Okay, I'll just ask you, you're all politicians, senior politicians, how long is this going to last, this
The Tories are desperate to last 5 years because they would lose a subsequent election. As to whether that's even remotely possible, who knows?
I wouldn't even give it 6 months, quite frankly. I think this whole thing looks so unstable. From a Prime Minister who promised strong and stable, this is pretty ironic.
My recent forecasts have all been wrong, so I'm not going to make another one.
Well, come on, let's have another one.
Well, I think most likely it lasts at least until Brexit is completed.
So a couple of years.
At least, but it could go the full 5.
Under Theresa May?
Under Theresa May. I don't like the Fixed Term Parliament Act, but it's there, and it makes it hard to get to an election.
You're not repealing it now, that was in the manifesto.
Which is one thing I regret.
Okay, thank you all very much indeed.